This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Allison and her family just returned from a 7-night Caribbean cruise on Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas out of Port Miami. Allison joins us on the line. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Good, good. Can't wait to hear about your Caribbean experience aboard Oasis of the Seas, which was the world's largest cruise ship back in 2009 when it launched, of course, being shadowed by many others in 2024. But excited to talk about this one. It's been a while since I've heard about it and a while since I've sailed it. So we'll jump in right here. And before we get to the ship itself, we're going to take a step back here. Now, you live down in Florida, and the cruise obviously leaves out of Port Miami. So give us some pre-cruise thoughts here. What made you want to take this 7-night on Oasis?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are longtime listeners and big-time fans, so I'm really excited to be here. We chose the Oasis sailing. You know, we sail with our 2 young children, so we choose our sailing based off of the kid-friendliness of the ship, as well as the itinerary and the departure port city. And this one checked all of those boxes for us.
Very good. Now, you're down in the southwest Florida area, and you go over to Miami. Did you do any pre-cruise time in Miami?
We did. So like you said, we do live in Florida, so only a few hours drive to the port, but we do still like to drive over the night before just to make for a smoother embarkation morning. And truth be told, I think we really just like to start vacation a day early. Whenever we do that, we love to stay at the Intercontinental in Miami. It's located right there on Biscayne Bay. It's such a beautiful property. They have so many great on-site dining options, as well as a Starbucks on site, which is really nice. And one of the reasons that spot works really well for our family is it's right across from Bayfront Park, which has a playground and some really fun interactive structures. It's just so nice for the kids to be able to stretch their legs after a day of travel, even though it's a short travel day for us. It still is so enjoyable to have the ability to check out this pretty pocket of Miami on foot. It's only about 2.5 miles from the port, so less than a 10-minute drive. And we also always see manatees there, which is really cool for the kids.
Is it still a very pricey property, if you don't mind me asking?
It really depends on the date that you go, depending on, what else is going on in and around the city. Mm-hmm. And also, if you book really far in advance, if you know your sailing dates, then it really helps with the price a lot. I think we got it for as low as $180 one night, which was a steal. Yeah. Probably the max that we've paid was about $500 a night.
I was going to say last time I sailed out of Miami, it was like right around $589 for the cheapest room.
Yeah. And a good tip for that one is like you mentioned, there are good views for certain rooms. This last time that we stayed there, the price was heightened a bit, so we did not elect for a better view room. We just got a standard view, and honestly, you could still see the bay so clearly. So that would be a good way to kind of save a bit if you still wanted to try out the property.
I believe you're close enough to Bayside Park, where you can grab some food over there if you wanted to?
Yeah, absolutely. It's right there on the river walk. And if you walk towards the huge Ferris wheel, which I think they call the observation wheel, there's a bunch of nice restaurants right there. I think there's a Margaritaville and a Hard Rock Cafe as well.
So how was your embarkation down there at Terminal A, Royal Caribbean's newest terminal?
It was really nice. So we like using the parking garage there. Whenever we sail with Carnival, we struggle with their parking garage because we have a large truck and the height clearance is pretty low. So we tend to have to use a surface lot whenever we cruise Carnival. And that's just an extra added element of difficulty that you don't need on embarkation day. We don't have that problem with the Royal Caribbean parking garage. So that's a really nice start. And then, like you said, that newer terminal, I think that Royal refers to it as the Crown of Miami. It's really nice. And we noticed this time that they added a few new touches. I believe they were like promotional images for the icon. But for example, inside of the port elevators, there were some wrapped scenes that was like pool images and things like that. And it just helped to kind of go ahead and get the excitement started before you even step foot on the ship.
100%. How long would you say it took from curb to ship?
So because we booked a grand suite and that has sky class benefits, we had express embarkation. So we were basically able to step straight onto the ship. We had to take one quick cookie break in the suite lounge. And it was just really, really nice to be able to walk straight on like that. The whole process took no more than 15 minutes curb to ship.
Okay, so I want to back up then. So, you walk on the ship, but before you get on the ship, you mentioned that suite lounge. So let's say if you're in a suite on like Norwegian at the Haven, which I know this is nothing like that. There's a special dedicated lounge you can go in before you board the ship. So is this one of those lounges where you can kind of, grab yourself some coffee and wait around and have a little more space in this Terminal A lounge if you have a suite on Royal Caribbean?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. They give you the ability to board as soon as you get there. So really, I think the lounge is, just if you want to kind of relax for a minute, take a step back, have a drink or a bite to eat, use the restroom, stretch your legs, whatever you need to do before you, step on board and start the fun. But yeah, it's a nice little exclusive area. And of course, without being in the lounge, then you don't have those little snack and drink options. And then if you don't mind, I would like to add a little tip here for other parents that, haven't cruised yet and are thinking. I know a lot of parents wonder if they should take a stroller on board with them. And for navigating the port terminal, I just want to tell other parents that it is so helpful to have a stroller to go through that terminal, whether you're a suite guest or not, because you will automatically be directed to use elevators rather than the escalators. And that really helps to circumvent the crowds.
Good advice there. Now, when you're walking on board the ship, what are your first impressions?
So I found Oasis to be incredibly easy to navigate. Inside of the elevators, they have these fun images that represent like a highlight from each of the frequented decks. For example, there's a bench for the Central Park deck. And I personally am a bit directionally challenged, and those images helped me a ton. So I really enjoyed the ease of navigation of the ship.
Is Oasis one of those ships, and we've talked about this a lot over the past few weeks, that when you board the ship, do people kind of congregate there where it's a little slower to kind of scatter, or do people, are there like entertainment staff kind of moving you along right when you walk on board the ship to keep the pattern and the flow going?
Oh, definitely. They keep you moving, and you walk out on into the promenade, so you are greeted by great scenes, and you go through the I'm blanking on the safety drill.
Oh yeah, the muster drill. Yeah.
You're immediately directed to go do that. So, there really isn't any standing around. It's welcome aboard. Let's go get the party started.
Now, let's talk about that grand suite that you have. What were your impressions of it, and how was it through the 7 nights?
Yes, the grand suite was amazing. The kids slept on the sofa bed. And what was really nice about that, and I'm not sure if it was because we were suite guests or maybe just the way that the stewards kind of timed their days, but our steward would put the sofa bed away every morning and then make it again every night, which is not something that we're used to having done. And that was just really helpful to be able to have that living space during the day. We were really impressed by that. The stateroom itself had a huge bathroom, with a really large bathtub, and that was really nice to have for the kids. And there were a few benefits that were in the room for us, some little amenities for being a Sky Class suite guest. There was a Lavazza coffee machine, and that was so nice for early morning wake-ups with the little kids. We didn't have to wander around the ship trying to find coffee when we were still half asleep. But I will say that we were glad that we brought our non-surge protected multi-outlet plug with us, because there were definitely not enough outlets in the stateroom for us.
What deck was this on?
I believe we were on deck 8.
Deck 8. And did you have any, throughout your 7 nights, any like noise issues or anything from either side or top or bottom?
No, not at all.
Okay.
We tend to try to pick a room that's pretty close to the elevator, but not so close that you're having a lot of traffic. Mm-hmm. And that way, you can easily maneuver up and down and around the ship without having to worry about any of that noise traffic.
What kind of perks do you get? Like you mentioned the Sky Class. Is that what it's called, the Sky Class?
That's correct. So whenever you book a suite with Royal Caribbean, they have 3 different levels of classes. There's the C class is for junior suites, and then the Sky class is their mid-level, and then Star class is the highest level. So the Grand Suite is a Sky class suite itself, and there's so many benefits for being in the Sky class. It really made the trip for us. Some of those include complimentary Wi-Fi for the entire trip, and that's for every person in the stateroom. So we had 4 people, so we got 4 devices for the complimentary Wi-Fi, and the speed was amazing. We were able to stream with no problem at all, able to communicate with each other throughout the entire trip. It was really nice to have. Another perk that they gave us was the first formal night, you get your clothes complimentary pressed. So you don't have to worry about the wrinkles. That was really nice. And then another thing I thought was really cool was at one of our ports, we had exclusive complimentary access to an upscale beach club. Also, a suite lounge that the Sky class and Star class, and I believe somewhere higher up in their loyalty tier program, Pinnacle, somewhere around there, also have exclusive access to that. That comes with a concierge who is such an invaluable resource to help with things like reservations. There's always snacks available there. They had some continental breakfast options. During the day, they have fruit and cookies. In the evenings, they do a nice appetizer bar. They have another nice coffee machine in there that makes lattes and espressos, and a juice machine, which was really, really nice to have for the kids. And this next one is such a huge added value that they don't make commonly known. And I'm sure we will all know why in a moment. But for Sky and Star Class guests, you get beer and wine complimentary starting at 11 a.m. They only advertise that their complimentary drinks start at 5 p.m. And those starting at 5 p.m. include the cocktails. But starting at 11 a.m., you can have complimentary beer and wine if you order it in the Suite Lounge. So needless to say, we spent a lot of our time in the Suite Lounge.
That's awesome. Going back to the concierge, I will say I have always been like, you know what am I ever going to use a concierge for on a cruise ship? And I had to fly out of Nassau unexpectedly a couple of years ago, halfway through a voyage, a 7-night cruise out of New York. We had a concierge with our cabin, and worth their weight in gold. They did all of my tax paperwork, got me the right certifications and the paperwork to fly home back to Jacksonville from Nassau. 100% changed my mind on concierge service on a ship.
Yes, they are so amazing.
So let's talk about the dining on this 7-night cruise. And before we get to the actual, like the main dining room, the buffet and all that, I know on some Royal Caribbean ships, there is a special dining room for suite guests. Does Oasis have that?
Yes, Oasis is one of the ships that does have Coastal Kitchen. It actually shares quarters with the Suite Lounge. It's on the other side of that room. And that, the main dining room it's really difficult with children. So we actually made dinner reservations in Coastal Kitchen every single night of our cruise.
That was what I was going to ask you, because I know some parents that I've interviewed on the show, they didn't want to go. They had the suite, but they didn't want to go to the suite dining room because they were afraid that, if their child starts crying, they're going to, disrupt this exclusive experience. But it sounds like you did the opposite. You must also have good kids, though, too.
Sometimes, yes. It depends on the day. I get that feeling. And, they're in full disclosure, there were definitely times that, we were a little edgy about it, but most people were extremely kind about it, just like they are elsewhere, in the main dining room or in a restaurant on land or, anything like that. But honestly, the reason I think that it worked so much better in Coastal Kitchen or even any of the specialty restaurants to dine with kids rather than the main dining room is you get such more like one-on-one attention from the staff. The service is a lot quicker than the main dining room, where there you're sharing your service staff with so many other tables, with so many other people and requests and whatnot. And that just makes sitting through the courses so much longer. It seems like it goes a lot quicker whenever you're in one of those restaurants.
Outside, or actually back to the Coastal Kitchen area, did it have a different menu every night, or was it the same one through the 7 nights?
It was similar to how the main dining room has it set up, where it has the rotating options nightly, as well as the steady features that are consistent throughout. But the menu offerings were different than the main dining room menu offerings. Okay.
And then did you spend any time at the Windjammer buffet on this ship?
We did a bit. We do tend to avoid the Windjammer, not because of the food, but just that's another place that's really difficult to manage with children. You're constantly concerned about them, possibly running into someone and causing them to drop food or drinks. So it's not really the best place for us to go. Instead, we ate at places like on embarkation day, we had lunch at the taco place, El Loco Fresh. That's so delicious and very easy. And then on the days that we were sea days, when we were playing on the boardwalk, we would eat at the Dog House. That's another complimentary option that was very easy. And when we were in Central Park, we like to pop into the park cafe. They had little bags of chips, which, food on cruise ships it tends to be more meal oriented, not really snack oriented. Mm-hmm. So that was a nice option for us to be able to go in there and get the kids a bag of chips. And that's another tip for other parents to know about. Definitely pack snacks for your kids. There's not going to be a lot of snack options on board for them, just as long as they're fully prepackaged. And it seems silly to pack food for a cruise ship where all of the food is included, but do it anyway, because leave it to the children to want to have something to snack on whenever not a lot of food options are available. And those every snack that I pack for every cruise gets depleted probably halfway through the cruise. Any dining on the promenade there, like the Sorrento's or Park Cafe? Oh, Kevin would always hit up Sorrento's for late night pizza. And we would do Cafe Promenade if there was, kind of a lull in between the hours of the other places that we like to eat. We would grab a quick sandwich there. Another tip I had for a dining option for kids is, sometimes kids can be picky eaters and you want to give your kids healthy options. That's not always the easiest thing to do on cruise ships. So I discovered getting them a smoothie in the Vitality Cafe. That was kind of like my secret weapon to get my kids to have something healthy whenever they really just wanted to have French fries or ice cream. We would just head down to the Vitality Cafe, get them a strawberry and banana smoothie, and everybody was a winner. Now, you mentioned that you could basically had an open bar from 11 o'clock on. So did you have any drink packages on this sailing? No, we did not purchase the drink package because we knew that was going to be the case. Like I said before, they don't advertise it, but Sure. We had heard that was the case. So I went onto an Oasis cruise, I believe it was a Facebook page, and just asked the question and got confirmation that they do offer those complimentary beverages for Sky and Star Class suites starting at 11 a.m. And I mean, that just made such a big difference in the value of booking the suite. There's the beverages, the Wi-Fi, all of these things that would have been add-ons if you did it all separately. So whenever you put it all together, I mean, it's honestly not much more to get a suite and you get the star treatment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Now, did you have any dining packages? We did not, because we knew that we were going to be taking advantage of Coastal Kitchen. And on other cruises, we liked eating at, Giovanni's and Chops. This time pretty much stuck to Coastal Kitchen for dinner. And then the one night we did do Izumi takeout. It was just a particularly exhausting day, and it was nice to just have the ability to relax. How about Johnny Rockets at all? No, we did not dine at Johnny Rockets. It just kind of, to me, it feels silly to pay to have a cheeseburger and French fries whenever you can have that elsewhere. But I do want to say, as far as being a suite guest, something that we should have done is ordered room service, because that's actually complimentary for suite guests as well. And you can order from the room service menu or the main dining room menu. That's whenever awesome. You're a suite guest for complimentary. Yeah, I know. There's the benefits just go on and on. Through this 7-night cruise, how was the entertainment, and what did y'all think of it, and any entertainment for the little ones? Yeah, it was great. We always enjoy the entertainment offerings on Royal Caribbean ships. That kind of, in our opinion, kind of sets Royal apart from their competitors. And the Oasis was no exception. We kind of inadvertently caught a daytime performance on the promenade. They had music and extravagant props and costumes, and it had the kids in awe. So that was kind of a cool, unplanned thing. And then there was a planned kid-friendly activity that we took them to in the kids club. It's called Adventure Ocean. They have a theater in there. So the Adventure Ocean Theater had this cute little puppet show that was glow in the dark. So it was like a black light puppet show, and it lasted about 20 minutes. And then at the end, they had a bubble machine that came out. So trying to pop bubbles in the dark, that was really fun for the kids. And then there was a couple other venues on board that had some fun shows that the kids would enjoy. So we went to the Aqua Theater and watched the Aqua 80s show. One of our kids fell asleep through the show, so that was kind of nice. It's kind of like a lullaby for them. We enjoyed that very much. And that's another place where the suite benefits help you out. There's we failed to make reservations in advance, totally blanked on that. But that for being a Sky Class guest, there's a separate suite seating section for you there, even if you don't have reservations. So that was really nice. The other venue on board that would have been good for the kids, but we didn't do it, is the ice skating venue. I think it's called Studio B. they had a Frozen show, like the Disney movie Frozen. We didn't do it. The kids would have liked it, but you have to draw the line somewhere on things that you do for the kids. We just didn't feel like we could sit through a Frozen show.
Do they open it up for the kids to actually ice skate if they wanted to?
I believe they do. Yeah. We're super warm weather people, so we didn't want anything to do with it.
I'm curious about the casino on Oasis of the Seas. I know they're really, really down low on this ship, but how was it as far as the smoking situation in and around it?
So they're actually, the Oasis actually recently added a smoke-free casino. Mm-hmm. And Kevin was very much looking forward to that because the smokiness of the casinos tends to bother him. And he definitely likes to spend time in the casinos. So, he was looking forward to it, but honestly, the smoke-free casino was a little bit of a disappointment for him because there were just fewer machines and fewer people that frequented it. So it felt like a much different atmosphere. So honestly, every time he wanted to gamble, he found himself going back to the same old stinky casino.
Yeah. Gotcha. For Sea Days, this was a pretty port-intensive itinerary, but you had a couple scattered in there. How were they as far as crowds and congestion?
It was great. We had, between the port days, there was Sea Day, Port Day, Sea Day, Port Day. So that was a really nice way to kind of stagger our time. We used our first Sea Day to kind of feel the crowd out, to see, what everyone was doing with their time and how they were, where they were choosing to spend their time. And we kind of worked around them and did our own thing accordingly from there. There were definitely some times and places that it was busier than others, but it never felt unmanageable for us.
Did your children enjoy like the splash pad and the water park and things like that on the ship?
Yeah, that was awesome. So the pool deck itself has a separate baby splash zone for children that are still diapered and that our younger child needed to use that area. That's not something that you see very often on cruise ships. I think that's actually a Royal Caribbean specific thing. I know there are no Carnival cruise ships that have that type of feature. In being a cruising parent, I know that a lot of parents that haven't been on cruises with their kids before, that's something that is really concerning for them. They feel like it's going to be, if they can't get in the water, what are they going to do? That kind of thing. Honestly, us as parents, we worry about that so much more than the amount of time that you actually spend in the baby splash zone. I would say we took our younger child in there maybe like 2 or 3 times and for like 10 or 15 minutes each time. And, he enjoyed it, but it wasn't really that big of a deal. And it's really hard to kind of, explain that to a parent that hasn't been on the ship before, because it just seems like it's a big deal, but it really ends up not being too big of a deal. To me, it seems like the pool deck is so busy and noisy and there's so many people and so much going on. It's almost more of like an observational experience for the kids. Mm-hmm. Then they have that separate splash away bay right next to the baby splash zone. And that was for our older son, because you do have to be potty trained to use that area. That was really fun. We spent a lot of time in there with him. Usually whenever the little guy napped, we would be in the splash away bay with our older son. And there's an enclosed slide in that area, and parents actually can go down that slide. I know a lot of parents wonder about if they can or can't slide with their children. So they're allowed to go down that slide, but you are only allowed to do one rider at a time. So your kid still has to be brave enough to go down it by themselves, and you can either go before or after them. The very strange thing happened to us on our sailing. The ice cream machine is located like right past where Splashaway Bay is. We were standing in line waiting to have our soft serve, and the ice cream machine caught on fire.
Whoa.
It was crazy.
You just started smoking, or did you see flames and everything?
We didn't see flames, but it was a ton of smoke rolling out, and you hear over the intercom, "Bravo, bravo." And it was wild, but they got it under control really quickly, and it didn't turn into a situation, but it certainly could have.
You were talking about that slide. Is that, I don't know if Royal Caribbean has this one or not, so you might have been talking about a different slide. Does it have the Great Abyss, or the big slide that goes from like all the way from deck 10 or whatever it is to the Central Park area, the boardwalk?
Yeah, it does. It's called the Ultimate Abyss, and the Oasis does have that. And it kind of, where it lands is in the boardwalk area. Mm-hmm. So we spent a lot of time on the boardwalk as well on sea days. That is a really awesome place to take the kids. It has a carousel, these cute little vehicle play structures. And right next to the vehicle play structures is where the ultimate abyss ends. And it was just driving our older son bonkers because he wanted to do it so bad. He thought he was brave enough. He thought he was big enough. And we had to go all the way up to the deck where it starts to find out what the height requirements are. They didn't have any information about that on the bottom where it ended. You have to be at least 44 inches tall to be able to ride it. And he was a few inches shy of that. So maybe next time.
When I was on it a few years back, I think it was Harmony of the Seas, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a kid, probably about 4 or 5 years old, but just barely made the height. And the only reason why he made it is because he had a buzz cut and his hair was spiked.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. I was like,
I don't know if I would have been comfortable with him going down it, even if he was tall enough. That thing, Kevin said he did it and it was pretty scary.
Yeah. So the reports of call on this 7-night cruise, what was your first one?
St. Thomas. We were docked at Crown Bay, which is a smaller port, and we were the only ship there. Honestly, this one wasn't our favorite. We probably should have booked an excursion here, but we didn't because we just kind of needed a day of nothingness. It was, a few shopping options, few lunch options. It wasn't like the most exciting thing ever, but it was nice to just chill, I guess.
I've never docked in Crown Bay that I could recall, unless I was younger and just don't remember it. But if you wanted to, and you had the energy to do so, I know the harbor kind of goes like this big inlet here. Could you go from Crown Bay and walk down to the other cruise port to go to those shops if you wanted to?
You probably could.
Yeah.
I mean, there were, there's like the taxi station. So I think if you can get there by vehicle, then you can get there by foot. If you're determined enough.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's key. Determination.
Yeah.
Okay. So after St. Thomas, where'd you go?
The last port that we had was Perfect Day. That is such a requirement for us. We will not book a Royal Caribbean cruise unless it goes to Coco Cay. It's just so nice. With, being there with little kids, you don't have to purchase any excursions. There's more than enough to do to keep them entertained. As soon as you step off of the ship, there's a really cute little pirate ship structure for them to play on. It's got water sprayers and slides for them to go down. And that's just a really nice way to kind of like ease into the fun. And then we go hit up the pool at the Oasis Lagoon pool. We set up on loungers. They have complimentary umbrellas. It's important to note that this pool is not heated. It's like an enormous swimming pool, so it would probably be extremely difficult to heat that. So depending on the temperature outside, the pool itself can be pretty chilly. Mm-hmm. And swim diapers are allowed in this pool, so that's a really nice option for the little kids to be able to swim. Does
Perfect Day have any of those like bougie suite areas?
They do, but none of them were complimentary, and we were more than well enough entertained without them.
Gotcha. All right. Very good.
That pool that I mentioned, it's got a wade-in entry. Mm-hmm. So that's also nice for the kids. If you have little ones that don't know how to swim yet, you can, kind of just ease your way in. Our boys are both super good swimmers. We're lucky in that aspect. There's plenty of restrooms nearby, and it has that awesome swim-up bar. So there's something for the whole family at that pool. And then Perfect Day also has Splash Away Bay, which is the little splash pad there for the kids. Well, I shouldn't say little, huge splash pad there for the kids. That water is super cold. Mm-hmm. You get like completely soaked. There's not like 1 square inch of it that's safe if you want to stay dry. And then there's like a little section off to the side where they have slides there. My older son wanted to go down the slides, but he wanted mama to go with him. So I was able to do the open air slides with him, but the enclosed slide there, they don't let parents do that one. So he had to brave it and handle that one on his own. And he did it. Let's see. We had lunch at Skipper's Grill, the complimentary lunch. They have plenty of options. You really don't need to elect for one of the, additional charge restaurants, but they're there if you want to try something different. And then we went over to Harbor Beach, which is it's all just like right there next to each other. It's so easy and just so enjoyable. It's just a little inlet, beautiful, calm water, super clear. You feel very safe swimming there. We take like collapsible sand toys for the kids to play with. And this time we actually checked out South Beach. They have so many games like life-size Jenga and paddleball and cornhole. It's just a whole different experience. It's more so like the fun beach, whereas Harbor Beach is more so just kind of relaxing.
with both of your kids being under 5, you said you went to Skipper's Grill, but are there other, like, plenty of options? If there was something at Skipper's they didn't really care for, other options to go to where you could actually find something?
There are, yeah. Whenever you first step onto the island, right past the pirate ship, they have, what is it called? Captain Jack's. I believe they have food options there, and just scattered throughout. Really, there's little, huts of things that you can purchase. I think there was one review that we read that mentioned like a really delicious chicken sandwich that you just had to try. So of course we had to try it. I wasn't really like blown away, but one of those things you just have to cross off the list.
Yeah, no, I get it. I did the same thing when I was there, and I felt the same way. I was like, yeah,
really,
not really worth the hype, but yeah,
it really wasn't. I'm like, give me Chick-fil-A over that.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Okay, so you make your way back on board the ship. Were you the only ship in port that day?
No, Freedom of the Seas was there with us, and we love Freedom of the Seas, so it's nice to see her again.
And how was that as far as, I know the island can, have like a 14,000 capacity right now, maybe even more actually. Was there plenty of like space and everything with 2 ships in port?
There's so much space, yeah. I mean, it's one of those places where you don't have to worry about being in a rush to get off the ship to make sure that you get a good chair. I mean, there's so many places with the pool and the beaches, and there's plenty of options. There's plenty of space. You're not overcrowded. It's so enjoyable.
Your next stop was back home, Port Miami. So how was debarkation once you got back to Miami?
So again, for the debarkation, how I mentioned earlier with the concierge for the Sky Class Suite benefits, they kind of escort you down. Same thing for debarkation morning, which is huge because, the elevators are a mad rush on that day. So all we had to do was just walk up to the suite lounge and let them know whenever we were ready to depart. And they used the reserved elevator and walked us straight down to the gangway. And we got to cut everybody in line, which kind of makes you feel terrible, but wonderful at the same time. So that was a solid start. And then it was, the whole debarkation process. It's supposed to be so easy with their facial recognition. And it would have been, but one of our kids was like a little intimidated about the facial recognition. So we had to go over to the line where you show your passport to an officer, and tensions were high, and that was a little bit rough. So not like the best way to end an amazing vacation, but these things happen with kids, and you just kind of have to let it roll.
Looking back here, do you have any tips for either cruising with children under the age of 5 or Oasis of the Seas?
Yes, absolutely. So cruising with kids is honestly just a whole new ball game, and we've done it quite a few times. And throughout that process, I've realized the need for like so many tips for first-time cruising parents. So I actually started a vlog of these, which I share on my YouTube and across some other social media platforms. It's called Allison's Wonderland. So ALISONS followed by the word Wonderland. These video tips include like the stroller recommendations based on the ship's spatial constraints, what to pack for little kids. I also do a lot of ship reviews, which feature like the kid-friendly features on board. And then some other things as well. Like I think we may or may not have mentioned this on air earlier, but we actually live in an RV full time. So I do a lot of videos that have to do with traveling with kids just in general, airport travel, RV travel, lots of tips to try to help other parents out.
If you were to give one tip for traveling on Oasis with children under 5, what would you say?
One thing that I think is really cool about kid travel on cruise ships is most of the walls on board are magnetic. So if you bring magnetic toys, like magnet tiles are huge right now, and they can play with those in the cabin. There's also most of the doors like the stateroom doors are magnetic. So we always bring a sign to put on the door, and that kind of helps the kids to easily identify where your cabin is so that they aren't accidentally like running up to somebody else's cabin and making a bunch of noise. It's, just a cute little recognition thing for them, but the magnetization goes a long way.
Well, looking back on this 7-night cruise, what was the biggest highlight for your family?
I know I mentioned it again and again, and I just can't say enough about how amazing the Sky Class benefits were. They truly elevated the entire experience for us, and it will be hard to cruise without them. And then also, I really enjoyed Lava D. Like I said, that was my first time there, and I was just so surprised at how similar it was to Coco Cay with, things included, the packages working on the island and whatnot, or the shore, I should say, not the island. And, you know, I think I said earlier, Coco Cay is always a destination that is important that we have as a part of our itinerary. And I think Wabadi is finding its way up there as well.
And to put a bow on this interview, your final thoughts of Oasis of the Seas.
You know, throughout the entire cruise, we noticed that both the carousel and the play place were temporarily closed for cleaning, and I appreciated that so much. This is one of the first cruises that we've been on that no one came home sick, so that was awesome, and I think that played a big part of it. You know, Oasis class is amazing for kids. They're packed with activities. But honestly, the passenger load is a little bit much for our preference. We prefer the more intimate feel of the Freedom class ships. But something tells me that we're not done with the Oasis class ships. We'll probably end up having to try all of them.
We've been talking with Allison about her 7-night cruise on Oasis of the Seas. Good talking to you, Allison. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and enjoy your next trip.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,